Joining us in Studio B is the president coach, Steve Cleveland, men's basketball analyst, former BYU basketball coach, and all-around fantastic human being, salt of the earth.
What's up, Steve?
Welcome back, man.
Good, guys. How are you?
Hey, we're good.
You should have had me on for the baseball segment.
Yeah?
I played a lot of baseball in my life. Baseball family. Dad went to SC, played baseball there.
Your dad played at SC?
Yeah.
Wow.
Drafted
Why'd you play basketball? He was drafted?
Drafted by Branch Rickey.
No
Really?
kidding.
Yeah.
Of the Brooklyn Dodgers?
Same time that
Jackie
Jackie was there, and he chose not to do it. Stayed at SC, didn't want to play Sundays. It's a pretty amazing story.
Wow.
And but we were a baseball family. Mike and I were talking. It's my favorite sport to play, and I just didn't happen to do it. I love basketball, obviously, but love baseball.
Wow, a man of many talents.
I did not know that. I love that just came out on the air while we were hanging out here. Branch.
Hey, forget whatever else we were going to talk about today. Let's talk about the fact that your dad was maybe going to play with Pee Wee Reese. And
a Dodger fan for whole life.
Yeah.
I've had to suffer a little bit, but
it's
I love
good
the
now.
Dodgers.
Good.
In Indiana, I became kind of a Cubs fan because everybody there was a Cubs fan, and I kind of.
Did you root for the Cubs in the playoffs?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Against your Dodgers?
Yeah, you know what? It was a funny thought. My thinking was, they've waited so long. Dodgers have had a couple opportunities.
It took the sports world by storm. It was the last great sports story in America.
God, I loved it.
it was fantastic.
The Indians are like, what about us?
The Indians they might be back again.
Oh yeah, we could
Both
have a
of them.
rematch.
Yeah, we could have a
They're
rematch.
both loaded. Hey, we're breaking down Major League Baseball.
Hey, Mariners won't be there. I know that.
Steve Cleveland with us in Studio B. Our Twitter question today is focused on BYU basketball. And before we restate it, I want to point out a couple of things, starting with our stat of the day. On average, over the last 4 years, the West Coast Conference regular season champion has won 16 games and lost only 2. It's been better than that for Gonzaga the last few years.
17-1, 2 of the last.
But on average, 16-2. BYU, in the last 4 years since Pacific came over and they've had, 18 league games, are averaging just a hair under 13 wins per season. So we are essentially asking today, when do you think BYU will win the West Coast Conference? And by asking that, we are saying, when do you think BYU will be good enough to win 16 league games at least?
Well, I think some of that has to do with what's going to happen this spring. But I think if you were going to just say that Williams-Goss comes back and they've got who they have, they're going to lose Collins. I don't care what anybody's talking about. He's 11th on the draft board right now as a lottery pick.
Oh, yeah, he signed an agent. He's out.
Yeah, he's out. So, but you got Melson, Perkins, Williams, Tilley, Williams-Goss. That's a pretty formidable group. You got to feel like they're favored to win it. St. Mary's going to be close. Maybe BYU a year away. But a year from now, things could be way different. Number one, there's going to be a lot of losses to graduation. I understand that Gonzaga will find transfers. They'll find new recruits. St. Mary's takes big losses to graduation. I think that, a year from now, legitimately BYU has an opportunity to win those 16 games and win a conference tournament. That's a group of juniors and seniors. You mentioned it, and I think it's realistic. Who knows what's going to happen? We still don't know what's going to happen in terms of recruiting for BYU. We don't know what's going to happen with Eric Mika. I think it's going to be more competitive this year than a lot of people think it's going to be.
Interesting, and I would love that because it's kind of getting stale. Okay, Gonzaga wins it. BYU's trying to get an at-large. BYU's not winning the tourney in Vegas. I need something else. Let's say Williams-Goss goes pro. Then what? What do you think of Gonzaga in the league?
I like St. Mary's to win the conference. And I think BYU sneaks in at second. And at Gonzaga third. Now,
Wow.
Gonzaga third?
Yes. Now, let me just tell you why, okay? Number one, Gonzaga hasn't been BYU's problem. They split with them 3 years in a row. They haven't been their nemesis. It's been St. Mary's. St. Mary's takes significant losses. This year, I see St. Mary's winning this thing. If Gonzaga lose more players than they've lost already, then I like St. Mary's winning this conference championship. The following year, hence, I like BYU where they stand. But I like BYU in that situation because they're going to beat Gonzaga again. It's certainly if Williams-Goss doesn't play, they have to beat St. Mary's. They split with St. Mary's. They split with Gonzaga next year. I don't see them losing some of the games they lost. I think this league
Talking about BYU?
Yeah, BYU. I still don't see BYU. This is a year of transition still. 4 or 5 new coaches, guys trying to find players. It's an unstable league, especially the bottom 5 or 6. A lot of losses. Brownridge is gone. Murray's gone. a lot of big losses. I don't think they're going to have that many teams sneak up and beat you. Santa Clara, loses a couple of really good players. Cratch was a really good player. So I like BYU. Now, what are the things that have to happen? One thing already did happen. That group, only one of that group of 5 that started, played the year before that. Either they were on missions, they were sitting out, whatever.
Nick Emery.
Okay, so one player. They played 34 games, right? Were they 22-12? 34 games. It had every imaginable experience, from the highs, the lowest, the lows. They're going to learn things from that. They have 6 months right now to develop a culture defensively, to maybe tweak the offense. There's some things they need to do, identifying roles, the weight room things, just the camaraderie, the development of leadership, a coaching staff that's going to make changes and tweaks. We're going to see a different team next year with BYU, I promise you. We got 6 months to sit on 2 really difficult losses at the end of that year. They have everybody's full attention. I see BYU making the greatest growth. I think St. Mary's has hit its ceiling. And there is some talk about a transfer coming in from New Mexico. That may happen. I think certainly Gonzaga's hit their ceiling. All right. So in that setting, I see BYU as the third entity here making the greatest growth this coming year.
And I really like that because it didn't the juxtaposition of St. Mary's best year. I know they've been to the Sweet 16, but regular season, best year ever. Gonzaga's best season ever. With BYU's young group.
We're talking about 2 top 20 teams.
Yes, was so wide, right? That we're like, well, you're not them. And that comparison was tough. So what do you think, who and what do you think grows the most out of this growth you're talking about?
Well, I think, first of all, the maturity of TJ Haws and Yoli Childs and even Elijah Bryant. I think the maturity there to buy in defensively to all the rules and things you need to do to be a great defensive team. And then I think just identifying their roles. I see the greatest growth there. Obviously, Eric Mika is at a pretty high level right now, but if he comes back, then there are lots of things he needs to get better at. If he comes back, it's because he wasn't ready to play. There wasn't one team that loved him enough to say, hey, come be with us. And so he has an opportunity. And I just think the culture is going to change. I just think I know Coach Rose pretty well, and I hardly ever see Coach Rose. We'll text and talk to each other once in a while, so it's not like I'm getting information here that says, hey, he's got I don't have anything inside. What I'd have is 8 years of working with the man, and he's an outstanding coach. He knows how to put teams together. He knows how to bring the best out of young men, and I think right now he's risen to that challenge, and from just a few text messages and a couple of brief conversations, they're on it right now.
Steve Cleveland with us in Studio B, discussing BYU basketball in the immediate future and where they stand in the current landscape of the West Coast Conference. Let's say best case scenario happens for BYU. Eric Mika comes back. Everybody's healthy, and Williams-Goss leaves Gonzaga along with Collins. They lose Karnowski, and I think they lose one other key player, transfer.
Well, Matthews.
Yeah, Matthews.
Jordan
Matthews is also gone. What's the best case scenario in terms of a finish, like realistic, for BYU next year with Eric Mika and with those Gonzaga superstars leaving?
If they're not, they don't have the mindset that we can win this conference championship, then I guess it won't happen. But I'm pretty sure that their goal will be to win a conference championship. And Zach Celius is a huge get. Kind of an unusual way to get him, unfortunately, for him and the mission and the injury. But I think he's an X factor there. All of a sudden, Coach Rose loves to play small when he can. Zach slips in there and plays the 4. It gives them more ability to score. And I'm not suggesting that Zach is ready to guard everybody, but I think the whole team has to improve defensively. But I like this team. And they split with Gonzaga when they had the best team in the history of the school. And they had the game at St. Mary's was more competitive than one here, and then certainly in the conference tournament. But I think too that when someone's beat you like that, you are more prepared, more motivated. I went through that here with Utah. You take a bang in the head, they're just beating us silly, and then eventually you get a chink in the armor and you get an opportunity. And if that whole group comes back, then you're playing for a championship. Now, who's favored? Probably if Williams-Goss isn't there, I'm going to say St. Mary's they'll be picked to win the league. And Gonzaga, and I said, well, why would you pick anybody but Gonzaga since they've won it 15, 16 times in a row? But Gonzaga, when they lose, they have those kind of losses. I don't know if there's enough time to fill those holes. Maybe there is. If they've done it in the past, maybe they can do it again. But you got to remember now, Matthews was a senior or junior at Cal, but Williams was sitting out. That was a big get. I mean, a huge get. And Williams Goss, he was a guy that came from Washington and sat out. So I don't know that anybody's sitting out. I always kind of like to look at the benches and see if there's any really good-looking young men there.
Not playing.
Who didn't play that really looks like a player there? But I haven't seen anybody like that. But Donnie Daniels, Coach Few, they're great recruiters. They've been doing this for
that coaching
years.
staff is amazing.
Phenomenal. So I'm not suggesting for a moment that they're going to have guys. But if Williams Goss leaves, then it's St. Mary's to lose, and BYU's right back on the hunt to challenge for a championship.
Wow. Okay, Coach
Wait,
Cleveland,
It's getting me super excited for hoops on April 12th.
bring in the heat. Well, we decided to
Love
talk
it.
about basketball today,
Yeah.
right?
It just gave me the other side of it. I love it. I love it.
The funny thing about it is that it may seem a little bit delusional because you look back and see how it finished. You got to move on. So that coach just said, in baseball, I mean, you got to have a short memory.
Yeah.
Have a short memory, then get to work and make the changes where they need to be made. There's talent there, and they can do this.